What's up guys, it's your pal Joey. I didn't get a chance to do this on Monday because my schedule was kind of a mess, but I'm still staying by schedule, so that's good. Before I start my video today, I do want to make a quick shout out right now because it's been out for a while. So I was in a podcast, I want to say a couple weeks ago, where I talked about 90s Nicktoons. I was basically talking about my memories of watching Hey Arnold. First season, not later on in the 2000s. But it was a good podcast, it was a lot of fun. I've collaborated with Jenny for a really long time. She has a podcast called the 90s TV Hour. Please, I hope that's the whole title. Do not kill me, Jenny, for this. I know you're probably gonna kill me for it if I get it wrong. But I'm gonna go with that, yeah. 90s TV Hour, it's on SoundCloud, I'll put links below. I think it was a very fun podcast, and I think you guys would enjoy it. So, got that out of the way, I want to talk about the Disney live-action adaptations. This month is all about the Disney live-action adaptations. And it had me thinking why people detest these movies, why there's such criticism against them, what the problems are. And I think it really boils down to one thing. These movies are great. Why do we need to see it again? And I agree. A lot of people get that impression because the movies that they are remaking are Disney's more popular IPs, the ones that get a lot of merchandise, the ones that have the biggest ticket sales, and it gives this impression that they're remaking the movies that are only popular versus movies that are warranted to be live action. I think they're staying away from that. Pete's Dragon came out, and I think that was a movie that was warranted some improvements. That me English sound bad. That was a movie that was warranted. That was a movie that I think would have been improved if they remade it. And the same is going for upcoming Mulan. That movie is basically catered to be a live-action retelling of Fa Mulan. I just, it's set in stone. I don't know why they haven't done that earlier. And which is why I want to make this video, because I do think that there are Disney properties that were animated that I think would have benefited if they were done in live action. Current ones, some in the past, and I think, you know, it just shows that you can make a good story with using a different technique, and technique is really what justifies the movie versus just telling it in a certain medium because that's popular. I think it really does focus, and Rankin Bass stop motion shorts are not going to be good and that great in CG. I mean, there's a charm to it in stop motion. If you can replicate that, you're going to have to replicate that specific style. That's just one example. Hanna-Barbera cartoons, they just have that unique feel when you see them in that clunky recycled animation, because that's just what it's been established, and those stories fit that tone. And I mean, same goes for Looney Tunes. I mean, I could give a whole list of things where the certain film is justified in using that technique. But there are Disney movies that I feel would benefit if they were done in live action. And I got a list of 5 because I just love doing things in 5. It took me a while. I had 3, but I was able to get 2 that I really thought about. I'll mention right now a couple that are actually in development, like Mulan. I was going to talk about that. But I was also going to put Sword in the Storm, but here's the thing. How many times have we seen the King Arthur tale? I mean, we're going to get one this month, so why see another one? So it's number 5. I'm doing this one at the bottom because it did make a good movie, just not a great movie, and it really came down to why. Big Hero 6. I think this movie would have benefited if it were just a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Or better yet, just a live-action movie. A lot of these tropes and cliches they did really borrow from Marvel. Justified because of the Marvel comic. It's the first time Disney Animation made a feature-length animated movie based on a Marvel comic, and it was kind of underwhelming because there are ways that you can make the animation justified. I don't think they really warranted enough visual flair to give this movie that added benefit of being animated. I think what they were doing was just making a superhero movie, so in that case, why not just have a guy like Sam Raimi, who's directed great superhero movies, Bryan Singer. I mean, I can go on, the list can go on of filmmakers that make good superhero movies. In fact, I think getting the guy who directed Kong Skull Island to do Big Hero 6 would be amazing. I mean, I think he's got a great sense of humor, great sense of ad-libbing, and I think it would benefit for having that interaction between Baymax and Hero And the other characters that I really can't think of because, again, the movie was very underwhelming. I mean, it wasn't very memorable. But I think if you get somebody that's trained in like live action who has a love for geeky stuff and geek culture and even, well, yeah, the movie does talk about tokusatsu culture. Wow, I totally murdered that word. I'm murdering words today. Joey Tedesco, word murderer. Hashtag it. I really do think that a guy like the director who directed Kong Skull Island would do very well with working with Big Hero 6. And in general, I think it would work as a better live action movie. Number 4, you're not going to believe I'm going to say this, but let's take a movie that really sucked and make it better. We're talking about Black Cauldron. I think Disney still owns the property. Still, what is it? Lloyd Alexander who wrote, or Alexander Lloyd who wrote these Black Cauldron books. I mean, that's been on the shelf for like 30 years, now going on 40. Why don't you give life to this franchise again? And I mean, improve on what was wrong. I mean, if you've seen this original movie, it sucked. I mean, it sucked back in the day and it still sucks now. I mean, this movie, like, was so bad, more people wanted to see Care Bears over it back in the day. And even today, I gave it a chance and I could see why I never watched it growing up as a kid, why my parents didn't really care about it. The characters are cliched as hell, even to a point where you don't care about them. You just don't sympathize with them, and they're annoying, and the tone is all over the place. I mean, you got the Horn King, he's gruesome, dark, here, you know, very one-dimensional, unfortunately, played by the late and great John Hurt. And I don't think they really did a lot with that character, because, you know, the tone would go from dark and creepy, skeletons coming from the dead, to characters like, warriors talking like this. I don't know. I mean, I think it's weird, because I was thinking if this were done in live action, you can basically make a good hero's journey, magical elements, things that have been done in Star Wars. As I mentioned in my review of this movie, is that it is very similar to Star Wars. And what better than having a guy like Garrett Edwards to do a movie based on Black Cauldron? Because what about Garrett Edwards' works? He doesn't show a lot of the monsters, doesn't show a lot of the really scary things until the last 20 minutes of the movie. I think this would, you know, warrant that type of filmmaking. Even, you know, giving Garrett Edwards more of a chance to shine by giving him something mediocre and making it better. Because he's taking properties like Star Wars and Godzilla, and he's making good movies, satisfying movies, but they're, you know, if you're gonna say that's the best Godzilla movie of all, you know, Toho Studios, it's the best American Godzilla movie, no doubt about it. But say that's like the Kickstarter to a new American giant monster genre of movies, cinematic universe of giant monsters. I don't know. The same goes for Star Wars. Rogue One, not that great. I mean, it was okay, I liked it, but you know, a lot of the problems that Godzilla had really translated into Rogue One, which is why I think giving a property like Black Cauldron, which is a standard hero's journey, a lot of the elements that were used in movies like Godzilla and Rogue One could actually improve on what we were given in the original animated film. Number 3. The funny thing about this one is that I actually thought about this growing up way back when I was a kid. And it was around the time I saw 101 Dalmatians. I was like, okay, so I'm guessing we're going to see more live-action movies based on cartoons. And in my mind, the one that came up immediately was Aristocats. Because, let's face it, Aristocats is 101 Dalmatians in style, just different setting and different characters, even the same time period. And I think the way they did 101 Dalmatians, as you've seen in my review, so I'm not going to go into too much depth there, they could pretty much translate into a live-action Aristocats movie and make a satisfying product. I mean, the movie was not perfect. I mean, growing up, I did like, you know, the talking animal aspect of it, but I think, you know, taking away the talking animals and having focus on humans talking, maybe not make it as cartoony. The funny thing is that when I was a kid, I actually wanted to see Jim Carrey play Edgar, which I think going forward would be kind of silly. I think kind of silly, very silly. I think maybe having something more like, you know, a Leslie Nielsen type character. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have a Leslie Nielsen right now. The closest we got is Ed Helms, which I think is unfortunate because I don't think Ed Helms is representing a Leslie Nielsen type of comedy. But having someone that's, you know, a straight up serious looking guy doing weird, wacky slapstick, I think would be great. Not Will Ferrell. I think Will Ferrell takes it a little too far. But have a movie similar to what they did with 101 Dalmatians and apply it to Aristocats. Number 2, so this is where we're getting a little bit better. I mean, here's the thing I like about the movie Hunchback of Notre Dom. I mean, visually, storytelling-wise, it's a very good-looking movie. It's a very passionate, very passionate movie. Why was this made? And I mean, it's really cool if this were Les Mis. And I think around the time this movie came out, Les Mis was really popular, and the filmmakers would find Beauty and the Beast were like, now we could tackle on something a little bit more seriously, knowing that we're Best Picture nominees. So let's go take Victor Hugo's story of Hunchback of Notre Dom. And I think it just conflicts with what Disney stands for and what they wanted to do, and you know, that conflict is just so apparent. You're going from Frollo singing Hellfire to friggin' gargoyles singing this goofy song like Timon and Pumbaa or whatever, and it just doesn't fit. Which is why I think if they want to make a Les Mis type of movie, make it live action. Do it the same way Les Mis was done. I think having, what was it, Dennis Hopper? Oh, that's the actor. Forget about it. I think it was something Cooper who directed Les Mis. I think he would do a really good job adapting Hunchback of Notre Dom. Even Bill Condon, who directed Beauty and the Beast, I think could actually do a better send-up to Les Mis by re-adapting Hunchback of Notre Dame. They could focus more on the dark elements of the book. They could go all the way with the dark elements. In fact, they could ignore all the cute, kitty-friendly stuff and just take the songs that they created from the original and translate it. Keep Frollo the same. I mean, have Jeremy Irons play Frollo, and you pretty much got a standard movie. Hunchback of Notre Dame, except more like Les Mis. My number one choice for a live-action Disney adaptation, hands down, Lilo and Stitch, directed by Spike Jonze. I mean, think about it. The beautiful thing about Lilo and Stitch is that it is a good-looking animated movie, but the human elements is really what makes this movie transcend what it actually is. And that relationship between Lilo and her daughter, and her sister, Nani, you know, trying to make ends meet with their parents passing away is, you know, the thing that really made the movie work. And it just so happens to be sci-fi. It just so happens to have an alien to help them go through their own journey, and, you know, that's relatable, and it just made the movie work. And I'm thinking about filmmakers who pretty much do this throughout their whole career, and I think of Spike Jonze. I mean, you think about a guy who makes very human movies, you know, movies that focus on the human condition, and it just so happens to include sci-fi elements. I mean, being John Malkovich, for example, Her, Where the Wild Things Are, movies that are very similar in tone to Lilo and Stitch. And it pretty much, it's all set in stone. I could see this movie working in live action, having that lush Hawaiian imagery, that lush Hawaiian cinematography, and having a Stitch that maybe not too much CG, but just enough where it's like a puppet or maybe a minute, a little person in a suit, and maybe have some CG on the face, and other aliens. I mean, that probably toned down on the silliness of the other aliens. I mean, honestly, I could see that movie working if they just made it in live action. I mean, to me, that's just a movie that I see in my mind working with people. And in fact, I can imagine a lot of cool photography, a lot of cool cinematography coming out of that, especially with Spike Jonze. I don't know about you, that's the perfect movie for Lilo and Stitch that I have in my mind. I've been saying it for years. I even think I said it in my top 20 favorite animated movies that I would like to, you know, I would like to see that directed by Spike Jonze. He's a great filmmaker. What do you think, guys? Comment below, let me know what you think. That's my video for today, and I hope you enjoyed. Namaste.